Could you tell me your name and what do you do?
My name is Claudio Miranda. I'm a cinematographer. That's right.
Yeah, you do so much more than that, right?
Oh,
No, I'm joking. That's so good. Just so we know, is there any like projects that you've worked on that we may be familiar with, that we have heard of before by any chance?
I've worked on Top Gun. That's probably one of the most popular. I worked on Life of Pi. My first one was Benjamin Buttons, which is actually when I started using the Mo-Sys head. And I think those are probably the biggest movies you probably might have heard of. And I'm now working on a movie called Apex. It's a Formula One based movie. Yeah.
Okay. How long have you been working in the industry?
I've been working in the industry since probably 1985, and I've been a cinematographer since 2000. So.
Okay, so you still feel like you have 7 in it, and still feel like you can keep going for a longer time?
I don't know. The jobs keep on happening. You see, they keep on coming my way.
As long as the good ones can come in and Top Gun and Apex, and like by these ones are the aesthetic ones.
Those are exciting ones. I mean, I try to do like little ones and like in between. Like this is my sixth movie with Joe Kosinski. We did Tron together, and this will be the 6th movie that we've done together. But every now and then I do one movie and I do a break. I did Pi, which is a little bit of a break, and I did a movie also called Naiad last year that's coming out on Netflix. I think it's a limited theater release, and that's coming out pretty soon as well.
So when it comes to films, is there a specific genre you prefer to work in, or is it just whatever excites you at the moment?
I mean, I was a gaffer for Tony Scott, who did the original Top Gun. And that's kind of what attracted me to do the next Top Gun, in a way. But with Joe, I did a lot of work with. So I always think it's kind of interesting to put yourself in places that you wouldn't imagine as a kid you would ever be. So I just never thought I'd be on an aircraft carrier. I never thought I'd be, talking, Navy about where to put cameras on the plane and dealing with all that. And so that was like looking at that life that I never thought I would, and living it for a little bit of a while, I think was something I just never expected. So I like those kind of jobs that potentially, or movies that put you in a place that you've never kind of been involved with. And Apex is a very different kind of movie. It's definitely more of the 2D version of Top Gun, right? But it's still, they're trying to make this one machine go as fast as possible. A little bit with the F-18, it's more like brute force, which you can't really do on something really specific. I mean, when you talk about things like if Lewis Hamilton gained a pound, that could mean a quarter second at the end of the race. That were little fractions of things matter. Where in F-18 not so much.
Yeah, way more powerful.
It is. It'll pull 8 Gs no matter what.
Maybe your next movie would be, you combine both of them, right? Maybe you ended up flying Formula One car after that.
Yeah. No, I do kind of delve into the homework a little bit for Top Gun. I got my pilot's license and did little things. I've really been play around with, not the F-18, but some other jets. I don't know. I just think it's all about just doing your homework.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, talking to you, some of you've had some really interesting experiences and some cool stuff. Over here, you're showing us some of the cars that were built specifically for Apex.
Right.
I was showing even for Top Gun, they've had to make some of these things. How has their experience been working with engineers and finding ways to place cameras and also capture the shots that you want to capture?
There's still kind of an engineering aspect to kind of both of them. Like everything has to get approved through the Navy about what we get attached to the planes, and everything has to get approved through Mercedes and a little bit of one about how we mount cameras and where we position cameras in the race. So there's a lot of dialogue between us and the Formula One people at the races of where cameras can go on the track or off the track, and Mercedes is definitely involved in all the cameras that are on and weights, and the cameras gets us up to over 4 Gs at times, so everything is pretty critical. And we have to be accountable if a driver is ever in an accident, that we're all careful about that, and how they're protected in case a camera gets loose or anything gets loose on track, that we're all just, we're still all on the front. So safety is kind of something we should.
As in your like 23 years plus of experience, can you walk us through one of the most complex or exciting shots you've ever had to do? Whether that was like a super long take or an incredible camera move that took a lot of focus and precision. Is there anything that comes to mind as a stand-up?
There's a lot of things that, you kind of, you look at and you prep, and then for Top Gun, there's the cameras that were inside the ship. That was something that they initially told me that you'll never get 6 cameras on the ship, but we got 6 on the ship. And it's just going through, just working with them, and for me, I was going through the ship like, what do you need that for? And that's a video system. I said, well, let's just strip apart all we don't need. And I found an old version of an F-18 that was kind of its most bare bones version of it, and I was able to strip that. So that was kind of fun, just talking them through and then kind of easing our way into having all the cameras on the ship. Oblivion we built, I think when that was made, we did, I believe it's the largest projection screen ever made. It was 500 feet by 45 feet, which is kind of the largest, I would say, environment ever. I think probably still currently to this day, maybe. Who knows? But that was
You never remember was trying some crazy stuff.
So that was a little bit of a crazy stuff. And I remember the producers not being too happy with it, because I think it was like a first time, and they were really just going into like blue screen or green screen, like a process version. And I was going like, but the set is all chrome, and it's all like, we'll destroy the set, or we have to compromise the materials on the set to suffice the screen. And there was a long, just sometimes when you have to battle like that kind of pressure, so and you have an idea, and you did like a little mock-up test and to kind of see if it would work, and the test worked out quite amazing. And to kind of invest in something that hasn't been strung together, like stringing off all these projectors to make this massive screen and all sync. And at that time, there wasn't LED wasn't an option. It was just, there's no room or budget for that. For 500 feet of that. I mean, that would be really expensive on today's world. But just going through that and having your own set of nerves and people kind of doubting you, and then you kind of overcome that. I feel like it becomes to be a huge, like, glossy turtle, and it's amazing. Like, that movie I think is pretty solid. I think it's one of the, like, I have a few little like moments that made me feel like, wow, that's just turned out great. That's one of them. There was on Life of Pi, we had a scene where Ang was saying, I want this huge, there was this huge, what else? It's a place of like celebration, and in this little this pond, there was. He just said, I want a candle every 2 feet. And I go, well, he's going to do some math, and that's around like 30,000 candles. So we had 120,000 candles, and we had about 2,000 people to light them.
That's a commitment to the shop.
So those are kind of like little things you look at in the end, and you kind of say these things like, oh, like your lighting order is like 120,000 candles. You look at it, you kind of, you have the scope of what it is, then you finally, it actually executes, and you see the whole scene, and you see what it looks like, and you're kind of covering yourself with a little bit of lighting at the end, just turning all the lighting off and letting the candles kind of do the work at the end. Those are kind of like big moments, I think, that I kind of feel like, you just kind of like, your little kid looking at your older self going like, how in the hell did this happen? Right?
From the films that you mentioned, it seems like there is a heavy focus on getting things done in camera, capturing it in camera. I know Top Gun especially, that was the focus for you, is to make sure that there's not a huge amount of VFX work to be done.
Right.
With shots. Is that something that you carry as a theme generally in your work?
It's a theme generally that I try to, carry on. I'm more attracted to movies in real places than I am in synthetic places, or unless it's impossible, then you figure out, okay, well, what's the best version of that? Like, for the Oblivion, the Sky Tower, yeah, that's probably not realistic to spend all a day in a, 2,000 foot mountain or whatever it is, So when you have those then you got to figure out, well, what's the best version of that? And I feel like, I worked with some camera companies to kind of design certain cameras to help my process to try to get it in camera. With Sony, they helped design the Rialto. That was a little disconnect sensor that really helped put the cameras in the jets where nothing else at the time would fit. So that was I have kind of great support from Sony for the most part for helping me do things like that.
Yeah, nice. So how was your experience been working with Mo-Sys over the years? And I heard Michael mention earlier that you were one of the early customers of Mo-Sys, so
I think
have a lot of
so.
experience with the heads more than most people.
I think so. I've had the Mo-Sys on, I think between 2007 and 2008, and I first used it on buttons, and I just always love the way it feels. So I operate a lot myself, and I'm always just on the Mo-Sys head, and it's been, I can't think of a movie that it had a 3D rig on Life of Pi. It's had, and that was massive. That was like a double Alexa and beam splitter, and that was not the little mini that we have now. It was the larger scale. So it was a ton of weight, and we just always loved the way I always loved how it felt, and we always kind of go back to it all constantly. So I still have the same one. It's working with me. I'm still using it. Used it last week.
The same headset.
Same head.
Okay, that's amazing.
It comes in for a little spring cleaning, but it's almost 20 years.
Man. Yeah, it sounds really good. And is that the typical experience with using heads that you found, or is this something very specific Mo-Sys where you can use a head for this long of a period?
Well, that Mo-Sys had, what I liked about it initially, it was always a simple connection to connect it. I didn't feel like I needed a whole tech team to come with it, which I did kind of with other heads that were out there. I felt like they always had a guy dealing with the head. There's always a guy over my shoulder, twiddling knobs half the time. And it always was such a complicated thing. And I just wanted to have something that was just super simple. And it was one cable that went to the head, and it was, I don't know, it was just super simple controls. Has great soft stops, all the programming that I have on it. It's not really much that has really gone wrong with it, that's pretty saying something. I don't know anyone that keeps gear for that long,
Especially the day this morning.
The day, yeah, everything that camera is going to be thrown away in five years, right?
I plan on keeping it forever, don't worry.
Oh, I don't know, well, maybe 10 years, but definitely,
Yeah, that's totally.
Definitely electronics nowadays, everything's, cameras seem to have a shelf life of 5 years max, probably, before something else, right? So it's weird to find gear that lasts that long.
Yeah. So in general speaking, I know you said it comes in for spring cleaning and all how's that process? But is it you ship it from wherever you were?
I ship it to Mo-Sys most of the time, but and tell you that's kind of usually doesn't need it. I just said usually it's fine. I just say at the end of a movie, I just said all the gear just has to be gone through. Especially something like I did this movie on night, it was near a lot of salt water. So I said, bring it over here and let's just do a little service on it, and just kind of go through it, open it up, make sure there's no salt in bad places, and just general maintenance, just make sure it works and go back.
So, and compared to other heads in the market, how would you position Mo-Sys head? And then specifically use the Latin head on correct more than anything else.
I'm looking at the other one, the G30, and so I'm interested in potentially a stabilized head. So that's something I'm definitely looking forward to testing.
What do you like about the G30?
I like that it seems, it's based on a similar design that I've known since the Lambda. I've come through that whole ecosystem, and everyone finds it super simple to work with. It's not, no one's ever really totally scratching their heads. Like sometimes even other heads, like sometimes you look at the menu of some of the other systems that are just extremely complicated, that no way would I ever like want to put that on my own crew. You know, that when I use that head, I hire that whole system. So, and sometimes on movie, you know, even though we're on schedule, sometimes things come up where, you know, I need to have an unplanned shot. So it's easier for me just to carry ahead on the show, like I do with the Lambda. So, yeah, all different situations.
I have a quick question for you, because for me, in my experience in movie working at Mo-Sys and speaking to other cinematographers and camera operators, a lot of people love our heads, just put it simply, but the thing that ends up being recurrent with every single person, the one thing that they all mirror to us is the handliness, the one thing that they tend to love.
Oh, right.
How do you feel about our handles? Is that a thing for you?
No, everyone loves the handles too. Like, you know, in fact, if someone asks me from another head, like, how do we build a head? Like I've been asked, I'll be like, we'll make them like Mo-Sys did. Look at that, and that kind of feels right. Like you could add the right amount of friction if you need to. You can take it off if you need to. There's a pause button for the wheels that sometimes you want to end a shot like you want to end it all up or you want to end it all down, so you can pause the wheels to kind of find the right position, and that's all supremely intuitive. You can go to the head. And you can pause the head if you just want to go to the head and kind of operate for a little bit, and then you can unpause the head. And those are all like just super easy, intuitive things that, I mean, I kind of, you know, been used to and love.
So if you had to make any changes to the current Lambda, is there any additions you would like to see come to it that you, over your years of experience with it?
I mean, my only thing is to stabilize. You know, that's what I'm kind of interested in, what the stabilized version is. Because sometimes you're on a crane that's not that good, or you know, the crane you want to do a dolly track and the track is not able to be put down perfectly, or there's a little bump at the track, and sometimes just those little imperfections a stabilized head will take out just by itself. So that's kind of why I'm interested in potentially looking at the G30.
Yeah. I think the one thing Mo-Sys prides itself in, and from as far as I can tell, I mean, I've had very little, no one's taught me how to use their heads, or how to set them on.
Right.
It means that it's really supposed to be as effective as possible. I mean, I've seen Mark plug it in, just plug in two cables, and there you go. It immediately recognizes which head is in, and the same console works across all the heads.
Right.
Is this like useful? Because if you get G30, your handles that you've already bought, you don't have to buy another set of handles or input devices. It
I
works.
probably would have to get a console.
I mean, essentially, your whole kit is interchangeable with your different heads. So if you've got a B20 or an L40 and a G30, essentially you can use the same input devices across the entire line.
Yeah.
Is that something that's actually beneficial to you?
Especially beneficial in the language that we're used to. I mean, I've built, like I have my own little system that I have already kind of built, integrated most of the Lambda features. Like it gets power through the cart to the system. And if I have to go from like regular Lambda to a G3, yes, that would make it much easier that I have to go to a whole new system. And I think it feels like the G30, I have to test, but it feels like I can definitely kind of have our own crew maintain it. I feel like it's not like something, if it's done with the Mo-Sys, it's not a big deal. For us, it's like, for the crews, it's like putting up just a regular wheels for the crew or a regular head. It's not really that much longer, you know. And that's what I love about this. It's fast. You know?
So I've got one last question for you. If I were a customer or sitting with somebody coming to you and said, listen, I need you to recommend a head for me. I got this big project coming up, and they were thinking of getting a Mo-Sys head. Is there anything you would say, any advice you would give to them? Any words of insight?
No. I would just like try it out. I mean, the feeling of the Mo-Sys is, and I've tried tons of heads, nothing feels like it for me. The wheels, how I operate it, how I feel really into it. Even when I was playing with the G30 right now, I did feel familiar again with how smoothly everything operates. I don't know. I could, you know, sometimes it's like having a good dolly grip or someone else on you. Like sometimes I feel like if I'm on some other heads that just, where it's like it has a delay or it's squishy, I'll miss a shot. And all of a sudden I feel like, wow, I got the Mo-Sys head, now I'm operating better. You know, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
it just feels like I have a more direct connection to the camera than I've had with other pieces of equipment.
It's quite interesting too, is after this, we sat down and spoke with a guy by the name of Jim Van Dyke, and he had put something similar to me because he's been using RG30 now for about 3-4 years maybe.
Oh wow.
He's been doing it for quite some time, and he used it recently in Morocco, shooting a series for Amazon. Amazon to stand defense, and he's saying, you know, it feels like I don't have to worry about anything when I bring his head out. Any of the heads I bring home from Mo-Sys, just put it on, and we don't have to worry. It runs the whole time, no problem. And if we've been going to issues, we've been able to get support almost right away. Which is one of the most important things. So the head happens to go over any other reason, you know, that you can easily get repairs done and easily get it serviced as well. Is that something that you found ever have to do those, or?
Yeah, I mean, service for me is, I mean, it used to be in the UK, so sometimes when I have to ship out to the UK, it's a little bit harder because I live in LA, but now there's an LA base, so that makes it a lot more easier to service. But initially, when I had the head initially, it was shipping to the UK, which is a little bit more tricky, but now that there's an LA base, that's not as much of an issue.